Hello and welcome once again to the Punk Wrestling Podcast. I am RM Punk, and what just happened today is my Elimination Chamber review. But before we get started, I'd just like to quickly mention that tonight I will be live streaming my reactions to Monday Night Raw on here on YouTube and on Twitch at Punk Wrestling Podcast. This is my new Twitch channel, which I will hopefully do live streams, and I will do some gaming as well as my normal wrestling content, which will be on YouTube. So check that out tonight. Be probably on about 12 a.m. For the show to start at 1, bit of preamble, have a bit of a laugh. So join me, let's have a chat, have some fun. But yeah, we've got a lot to uncover here. Big shock to end the show. Miz is your WWE champion. Oh my God, it happened. But yeah, we'll talk all about that as we get through the show. All in all, the show was, I'm going to say, okay. There was a couple of things I didn't like. There was no women's title match, so there was just the tag team match on there, which is a bit of a not the best women's representation they've had as of late. There was the Raw match, the Raw Chamber match just didn't click for me. I don't know what it was. There was plenty of good moments in there, but it just didn't, I didn't feel it. It wasn't in the heart. It wasn't like, oh. The SmackDown match was a lot of fun. The tag match was perfectly fine. The triple threat match was all right. You know, it was just going along its way. We're on the road to WrestleMania. It wasn't like the best road I've ever seen, but it was all right. It was okay. So let's get into it. And a few notes from the pre-show. As Ross would once say, it's John o'clock. JBL picked Randy Orton to win the SmackDown Elimination Chamber match because, well done, JBL. And they're talking about Asuka and Lacey. Well, they're talking about Lacey. They talk about Lacey being pregnant and all this. And eventually, Charlie says, who is Asuka going to face? And no answer. Rosenberg says, who wants to see Asuka? And someone says, who's ready for Asuka? No, who wants to see Asuka? So Rosenberg, what the hell are you smoking? We all want to see Asuka. We would like to see Asuka in a nice title feud, in an actual story and something happening. So get to it, WWE. Then something needs to happen on tonight, please. God. But yeah, so that was it for my random rant about the pre-show stuff. There was also a fatal four-way to decide a replacement for the injured Keith Lee. It was announced that Keith Lee was injured and wouldn't be taking part in the match. The four participants were Elias, John Morrison, Ricochet, and Mustafa Ali. So Ali comes down, has Retribution with him. It's a no DQ match. This should be a foregone conclusion. Of course not. Why would heels use common sense and just beat everyone up and Ali could win? And then later in the night, they could be banned from ringside. No, all right, fine. Ricochet was the Iron Man in this fatal four-way match. You know, in multi-man matches, normally, you know, people take turns, taking a little nap outside. Ricochet did none of that. The entire match, he was part of the match. It was standard affair for the most part. Outside of that, Slapjack pulled Elias off of a pin early on. Elias hit a nice sit-out choke slam onto Ricochet. Morrison missed Starship Pain. Like I said, Ricochet was the centre of this throughout. Hits the 450, but Retribution pulls Ali out of the ring. Ricochet tries to do a dive onto Retribution. They catch him, ram him into the steps. Ali is back in the ring now, but he's just on the apron, like enjoying Retribution attacking Ricochet. And Morrison rolls him up for free, and Morrison goes through to the triple threat US title match. Not who I would have picked to win this one, but at the end of the day, kind of inconsequential, because you kind of know that it's unlikely that one of these is now going to win the US title and change everything. But yeah, it was an okay match, but it was an odd choice of winner for me. And then after the match, more preamble. Booker T and JBL start talking about how Morrison will make a great champion someday. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's a multi-time champ. He's a 3-time IC champion, a 6-time tag team champion, and a 1-time ECW champion. They are on similar level to the US Championship. He's already been a champion in WWE multiple times. So I don't know what. And it was during a time when they were active. All right, I will stop ranting about Booker T and JBL. I will let Ross on Cultaholic crack on with that one. So we started off with the SmackDown Elimination Chamber match. It's mentioned that Kevin Owens is his first Chamber match. They've not let him near it so far. I'm like, I wonder what he comes up with. Didn't really come up with a lot. Wasn't anything crazy. I was like, oh, KO's going to do something mad, but no. Early on, Sammy enters the pod, and the referee, Jessica, kicks the camera crew out of ringside area. So, okay, what are they going to do? But it didn't mean anything, but it was just part of the thing, as part of the conspiracy, I guess. Because later on in the show, Amos was out the back at ringside, no problem. I think he's a bit more threatening than a camera crew, but all right. Again, before the match starts, KO nearly headbutted his way out of the pod, trying to get to Jey Uso. Bryan and Cesaro kick this off. And please give these guys a takeover style match. This was a great opening. If they were on a takeover, Bryan versus Cesaro, I would have a fit. Be the best. Absolutely brilliant. Back and forth, trading uppercuts. Bryan hits a top rope knee, missile drop kick, a top rope Hurricane Rana. Cesaro hits a clothesline. He gets some nice groundwork in there. And then Corbin comes in, and it's all power. Rams Cesaro into the pod. Bryan into the chain. Bryan does a corner drop kicks to both, but then Cesaro misses one drop kick, hits the uppercuts on both, and then Corbin hits deep six from both. Corbin rams DB's knee into the corner of the pod twice, twists his knee around the corner post. That is going to be coming key later. Bryan's knee is bothering him. Next in is Sammy. Sammy holds the door shut. He's like, nope, I don't want any of this. Corbin's taunting him. Knee to the back of Corbin from Daniel Bryan. Sammy's now taunting Corbin on the floor. Meanwhile, the other door on the other side of the pod's open, and Cesaro just beats the shit out of Sami Zayn, banging him around the pod. Sammy goes for a hell of a kick later on to Daniel Bryan, but Bryan misses, so he kicks the pod. There's a superplex onto Daniel Bryan from Corbin. Sammy is thrown onto the top of the pod at one point, and Cesaro chases him up there. And then they start, Sammy's running away, so he's climbing along the centre of the cage. Cesaro follows him. He smashes his head into the chain a few times, and then Cesaro grabs the top of the roof of the chamber and hits a drop kick, swings himself into Sammy, drop kicks him down to the floor. And Cesaro, while he's up there, does a few tune-ups into the roof. Nice little touch there. Yeah, it was nice. Cesaro gets the swing on Corbin and sharpshooter for the tap. Corbin is the first one eliminated. No surprises there. He was a house on fire, and then he's eliminated. Kevin Owens is in next. He walks straight into Sammy. Sammy's like, you get us. You get us. They don't want us to win. Let's work together. Let's do this together. Kev just rams him straight into the pods. Bryan has a sleeper onto Kev at one point, and Kev, with Bryan on his back, hits the senton onto Cesaro. Nice spot there. You get cannonballs to all three. Bryan hits the running knee on Cesaro, but KO hits the pop-up powerbomb to Bryan. Everyone's down. Sammy's begging Kevin to, save me, but, don't. Jay comes out, and him and KO get straight into it. He throws Jay into the pod, taking the back wall out. That was never mentioned. It wasn't really used, but there we go. Kevin does a moonsault off the top of the pod to everyone. That was a nice spot. Felt a little bit overproduced in that you could see that all four just sort of migrated to that area at the same time for no real reason. They were just all there all of a sudden. But yeah, KO then hits stunners to Cesaro and Zayn is eliminated. Jay rams the door into Kevin's. As Zayn is leaving, obviously the door's open. KO is probably taunting Zayn, I believe, and Jay slams the door into Kevin Owens' arm, kicks him a few times, slams the door a couple more times, hits the splash onto Kevin Owens for the 3, and KO is eliminated. So we've got Jey Uso, Daniel Bryan, and Cesaro in the final 3. Cesaro hits top up elbow drop to Jay. We get a seesaw swing, is what I'm going to call it, to Jay into the chamber wall. So he's going 1, boom, boom, boom. Nice. Bryan and Cesaro get back a bit more back and forth in. Bryan hits the kicks where he's holding both hands. Let's go. But the running knee gets countered. We get uppercut after uppercut after uppercut. A second rope gut buster, which was nice. Does a one-legged swing to Bryan. So he gets him in like a half crab and starts swinging him on the dodgy knee. But Jey Uso, super kick out of nowhere, hits the splash, and Cesaro is out. We've got Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso. A splash onto Bryan for 2. Jey on top of the pod, splashes, but the knees are up. Hits the running knee for 3, and Bryan wins. This was a good match. It was a fun match. It was some nice moments, and Bryan is now out of it. Bryan cannot stand up. I'm sure this will come into play, and Bryan has yet to move, and it's not the main event. Roman comes down straight away to start this match off. Bryan is dragging himself around, unable to stand, and the mat he gets, he goes, yeah, I can start. Roman runs straight for the spear, and Bryan counters it into the yes lock, and you're like, wait, no, there's a nice little hope spot. I felt it, actually felt it. But Reigns powers out, ground and pound, hits a power bomb, more ground and pound, guillotine, and Bryan is out cold, I think before he even puts the guillotine on, and Roman retains the championship. Like I said, great match. It worked. Bryan was completely out of it before the match started. It makes sense. And on this day, Edge sees clearly messed up the whole joke there. Edge spear to Roman, sign pointing commences, more whispering going on between the two, some more sign pointing, fireworks. We have our main event at WrestleMania. Yep, no shocker there. We knew it was coming. It's the right choice. It will main event the second night of WrestleMania, which is April 11th. As I've said, is the 10-year anniversary of when Edge retired. You've got to have it. You just got it. Little backstage segment with Bad Bunny is with Sonya Deville. Sonya's like, need anything, come to my office, Miz interrupts. Like, what are you doing here? And Bad Bunny's like, I'm the 24/7 champion. What are you doing here? You're not even champion. Or are you even champion? And Bunny slaps the Miz. Miz goes to slap back, but Priest is in the way now. That was it. Right, okay. Little segment. And later on, Miz is the champion. Ooh, yeah. Next up, we get Evil Bro Neville. Yeah, Riddle in Evil Knievel gear versus Morrison and Lashley for the US title. So this match starts off. Lashley goes straight for Riddle. Morrison then piles in on Riddle as well, and Lashley's like, nah, he's my meat, and takes out Morrison. Morrison tries teaming up with Riddle for a little bit, but Lashley's like, nope, he has the high ground, as Samoa Joe says at one point. Riddle does use a head scissors to take Lashley out of the ring. You get stereo dives from Morrison and Riddle, and then Morrison and Riddle go at it for a little while. Broton onto Morrison, a rip curl knee onto Lashley. My words are not working today. I do apologise. I'll try and do better. You get the floating bro. Morrison hits a shining wizard onto Riddle and Starship Pain onto Lashley. MVP is then berating Morrison, like, you think that could finish Lashley? You're an idiot. Morrison comes out the ring and gets his crutch and then goes in the ring with the crutch. But before he could do anything with the crutch, Lashley hits the hurt lock. However, the crutch is on the floor. Riddle comes in, hits Lashley over the back of the head with the crutch a couple times, and then hits Bro Derek onto Morrison for the free and new US champion, Riddle. Riddle runs straight away from Lashley, and Riddle says he has his golden ticket now, bro. This was quite a good match. It was all right. There was it was typical standard affair. Riddle's the new champ, which is quite unexpected, but I think it makes sense when I get back to later in the night. Will make sense. And I wrote, this feud's far from over. I think it is over, and I'll tell you why later. But yeah, it was a good match. Nia and Shayna versus Bellaire and Sasha. We get a pre-match interview with Kayla interviewing Sasha and Bellaire. Reggie gets involved and does most of the talking here, saying Bellaire and Sasha will become tag team champs. Bellaire is the EST of WWE, and someone as beautiful as Sasha should be draped in as much gold as possible, and we'll put a bottle of the finest bubbly on ice for their victory. A little bit of the bubbly. Early on, Graves is very heavy on the don't trust Sasha bandwagon, as always. I love that. It's long term. He hates Sasha, no matter where she is, what she's doing. He hates Sasha. Perfect. Early on, you get Bellaire and Nia, and we get a bit of fun here. Bellaire literally kicking Nia's ass, having a bit of fun with her. We get quick tags between Sasha and Bellaire earlier. Shayna and Nia get the upper hand on Banks after a little while, and Sasha starts picking the arm apart. Shayna locks the clutch in on Bellaire at one point, but Sasha tags in, hits the frog splash for 2. It was a good match. This was a good match. There's plenty in. It all breaks down. Nia hits a Samoan drop onto Bellaire, but Sasha made the tag again and hits the Meteora. Reggie comes down with a bottle of bubbly and a glass. Sasha gets a little bit distracted, but gets Bank statement in. There is a rope break. Reggie then rolls the bottle to Sasha to be like, no, on, bash her over the head with it. Sasha's like, I'm not using this. Like, no. And Nia hits the Samoan drop for 3, and still tag team champions Nia and Shayna. The match was alright. You kind of expect a wonky finish in that Sasha and Bellaire are going to be one of the main events of WrestleMania, so you don't want them to look weak and lose. However, you don't want them to be the tag champions either. You probably shouldn't book this match. But it was alright. And Reggie afterwards is all apologies. So we'll see where that one goes on Friday. Prior to the main event, and that's it, we're at the main event already, MVP is talking with The Miz backstage. So yeah, we've got the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE title. I've said it once, I'll say it again, no women's title match. It's a disappointment to me. Just one women's match on the card. The match kicks off with Orton and Hardy. Randy starts strong, hits the stomps. I wasn't invested in this portion of the match. Yeah, Orton throws Hardy into the pod, into the cage. Orton then slows it all down. Hardy hits the atomic leg drop. With the leg drop combo, Hardy hits a splash. McIntyre comes in. McIntyre takes charge, throws them all around, suplexes Hardy onto the outside. And this is what I liked. So he does the suplex, and then he picks him up, and he's about to lawn dart him into the pod. But the cameraman is there by the pod. And he's like, move out the way. And fine. And lawn darts him into the pod. And then goes, looks into the camera and says, I told you to move. Which is a nice little spot. Orton then takes over for a little while and slows it all back down for Kofi to come in. Kofi and Orton going at it, and Kofi rolls up Orton for free. So Orton's out, nothing happens, no Fiend, none of that. Orton does, on his way out, RKO's Kofi and Hardy, so they are both out. And McIntyre's outside the area. And you hear Styles shouting, and Amos is there, and he asks Amos to get him out of the pod. So he rips off the back wall, and AJ goes round to the front door and gets himself into the match early, trying to capitalise and pin Hardy or Kofi. But 2 counts all round, and Pierce kicks Amos out. Kofi hits a tornado DDT onto AJ on the outside. Kofi hit the SOS onto McIntyre for 2. Styles hits a nice brainbuster onto Kofi for 2. Kofi monkey flips AJ into the cage, and McIntyre suplexes Kofi into the cage, then flat onto the floor. Nice spot there. There's a very big back body drop by McIntyre onto AJ, which is a nice little spot. And then we get Sheamus in. Here are McIntyre facing off, and they're just going at it. Blow after blow after blow. At one point, Kofi and Hardy go to get a bit, and McIntyre and Sheamus just throw each of them out the ring and go back at it. They are in a fight. Kofi does some flying onto McIntyre and Sheamus on the outside. Kofi's on top of the pod. Sheamus on the top rope. Drew crotches him. Drew goes for the superplex. Hardy and AJ turn it into a Tower of Doom. Then Kofi does a trust fall onto all 4 of them. Tries to pin each, but no luck there. And then a bro kick takes out Kofi. Hardy hits Twister Feet on all 3. Hardy hits Whisper in the Wind on Sheamus from the top of the pod. And then a swanton onto AJ, but gets hit with a Claymore before he can make the pin. And McIntyre pins Hardy to eliminate Hardy. We get a pump knee from Sheamus, which gets a 2 count. AJ hits a springboard 450 for 2 onto Drew. You get beats of the Bodhrán onto AJ, a top rope clothesline, all from Sheamus. But then Drew hits a future shock DDT onto Sheamus. Sheamus then hits the brogue onto Drew, but AJ hits a phenomenal forearm onto Sheamus and pins Sheamus. Sheamus is eliminated. We have AJ and Drew. AJ's going for the forearm, but Drew claymores him in midair to win, and still WWE Champion Daddy Drew McIntyre. Like I said earlier, it was a good match. Like, I reeled off all the spots, but something was missing, and I can't really put my fingers on it. Might have been the crowd, like, with all these spots and stuff, like not getting the holy shits and all that kind of stuff. But I just wasn't as invested. As the chamber is lifting, out comes Lashley. Lashley spears Drew, throws him around ringside, rams him headfirst into the post, and ramming him headfirst into the announce table, gets the hurt lock inside the ring and the full Nelson slam. Awesome! The Miz runs to the ring and he's cashing in his briefcase. Drew can barely stand. Miz hits the little DDT. That only gets 2. Scroll crashing finale gets a 3. And the new WWE Champion is The Miz. What just happened? And I was shocked, absolutely shocked. But I have to say, this makes Raw much watch, because I think Miz will be losing it on Monday to Lashley because of the conversation with MVP and The Miz. I feel like MVP said to Miz, look, Lashley will help you. He'll go beat up Drew, but you give me a shot. You give Lashley a shot on Monday. And that's, I think, where we're going. I think Lashley gets this title back either Monday or a fast lane, and then you get Lashley versus Drew for night 1 of WrestleMania. So it's not all hope is lost. I do like The Miz after all this. I do actually like The Miz. This isn't the right time. A couple of years ago was the right time. This isn't the right time. However, I'm happy he gets another title reign. Good for him. It just won't last very long, in my opinion. So we will be checking into Raw tonight, and I'd like you to join me. Like I said, live streaming on this channel, on YouTube and on Twitch. Same name, Punk Wrestling Podcast. I will see you all there tonight. Let's see how we go. Please give this video a like, share, subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more, and I will see you all soon. Good night.